you're watching this, you're watching the recorded side. I appreciate that. Let some people get in here, and we will start the production. Chat it up if you're in here. Daniel, what's up? You actually are first. Kevin and Ollie's in the house. Dan, what's up? Pale Rider. Hey, Stretch Nuts, what's up? Greg Zimmer, good morning. Scott, how's it going? TJ, what's up? The Outcast, Mr. Thor, how are you? Larry Fisher. Jimmy, what's up? As you guys can see, that is not a truck behind me. I am at home, Big Rich. Dan, what's up? It was good meeting you the other day, Dan, there in your home state there. Stretch Nuts, why am I home? My wife had a bunch of doctor's appointments yesterday, so I got a load through the house, and it's really easy to do since I live right off I-44 in Missouri, so that's where Schneider was a better fit than Landstar, because it seemed like there was a lot more freight coming in and out of this area than it was for Landstar. Landstar was doing a lot of deadhead miles just to get out of here. I go back out tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, get this. I delivered in Kabul, Missouri, right? They didn't have an empty. Why? Because apparently we just got back a contract in that customer. So I was the second Schneider they had seen in like 6 months. So my next load picks up right here in Springfield, Missouri, and it goes to Carthage, Missouri. Okay. However, to get an empty, I have to go all the way to Joplin, and then I got to come back to Springfield, and then go back to Carthage, which is right outside of Joplin. And then my next load picks up in Joplin tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon. Now you're saying, well, it's easy, Steve. That kind of lessens the rate per mile. I was kind of prepared for this to happen. This is where knowing your area is really important. I knew that it was probably going to go down that way. But the load that's going from Springfield to Carthage is paying so well that even the extra mileage, which is out of route, by the way, which we get paid for. If you are within 51, or I think it's like 50 miles or more out of route, you get paid basically $1 a mile. So, so that puts an extra, $50 on this load. So, win-win. Hey, Kevin, what's up? Stretch asks if I already go back to PA. No. If you guys saw my vlog I put up last night, that's another way you know I'm home, is that's when I usually upload an actual video from my GoPro. I take that back. The Mont Eagle one I did on my computer, and then I loaded it to my phone, then I uploaded it, and I was on the road for that. But no, Jeffrey had some really good advice about when it comes to PA. So here's the problem. If you guys want to know the ugly part about Schneider, here it is. When I was at Landstar, you're basically left to your own devices. Then 180 days, you have to take what they call a CABS class. The first half of the day is all the safety crap, all the safety stuff that every company does. The second half, however, it is optional, and you'd be a fool not to do it, because that's where they teach you how to use the tools that they have on making better rates and getting better money and how to use a load board and all that stuff. The CABS class was a huge godsend for me. So Schneider doesn't have anything like that. That's the problem. So you have to rely on guys like Jeffrey Like that know the program in and out to teach you how to run a certain way or a certain area. And that's the other thing. It just depends on how you want to run. Do you want to run long haul? Do you want to run short haul? Do you want to be home every night? Do you want to be home every weekend? I kind of do a little bit of combination. I do a little bit of long, a little bit of short. And but I'll stick to an area. My run to Pennsylvania was a bit of impatience because the rates are great going in. You want to go to Pennsylvania, you're going to make good money doing it. However, Pennsylvania is a lot like Texas. The Northeast is a lot like Texas. It's good going in. It's kind of bad going out. But it's good staying in and bouncing around. If you want to run Pennsylvania to Maine, Vermont, New Jersey, New York, traffic doesn't bother you, you know where to park, and you know the area real well, that's probably the highest amount of money you can make here. I've seen guys on Facebook, show their settlement pages, and they're about, I've seen as high as $5,000 and $6,000 in a week, gross. So the problem is that I don't know the area too well, and by the time I was able to get on the low board and book something coming out of PA, basically what Jeff and Steve told me was that I looked at it the wrong way. I should have done a little triangle and then got out. Because there are areas of Pennsylvania where you can go to that pay really well. You deliver there, and then you can deadhead to Ohio to get out. So, but I wanted to stretch my legs. I wanted to get familiar with the area again, and it was a learning experience. So, will I ever be back to Pennsylvania? I never say never. So 28 to you, Thor. Kevin and Ollie, last few moments in the hotel, thank goodness, doing alignment now, then we're free to go. Good deal, Kevin. Speaking of that, it was a year ago last week that my turbo went out on the Peterbilt. A very, very dark period. There's nothing like a huge repair to kind of take the wind out of your sails. And if you're not prepared, that's the final blow. How many of you that are owner-operators on this, or want to be owner-operators, how many of you have been told, don't do it? Don't do it because I failed. Don't do it because 3 of my friends failed. Don't do it because a buddy of mine, he went bankrupt doing it. Or, how many of you have heard that? And I was talking to, it was either Jeff or Steve about this earlier. 90% of drivers that fail out here, it is because of your own devices. It's either lack of preparing, lack of planning, lack of knowledge. If you have the knowledge and you know the right people, you can make a lot of money out here. You have to put in your due diligence. You have to put in your time. You have to have an open mind. You can't be stubborn. There's a certain YouTuber / Facebooker that is going through a lot more struggling than he needs to, simply because he refuses to educate himself. And he's also being taken advantage. I think that the dealer selling him the truck that he has, should be put out of business because they're knowingly giving him a truck that they know is going to cost a lot of money to run. And that's just bad. Bad business. Had we not caught this, I could have lost the turbo too. The seal was bad on it and has been replaced. Happy for that catch for sure. Yep, Kevin, that's a good deal, man. Turbo is a lot of money. The reason why my turbo was so much is because they had to tap out 3 bolts that had broken. And I saw them. I know they were broken. The other reason why it was so high is because, well, I mean, the actuator should have been replaced with it. But it was also high because I had to go to a dealership. That's where the truck died. If I had been able to get it to a Cummins shop, it probably would have been a lot cheaper, and they would have done it right the first time. So, had I not been prepared with a backup plan, we would be having a different conversation now. And that's the most important thing. You know, you hear about guys that go out and buy $15,000 old Freightliners or something, and they start making money right away. Well, if you're making that kind of money, you got to put it away. Because eventually, sooner or later, something's going to break. Something's going to go down. Even if you are your own mechanic, even if you do an EGR delete, even if you have an old school cab over, you have to put money aside. You always have to have that cushion. Because you could have a brand spanking new truck with a killer warranty where you don't have to pay a penny, or a full maintenance lease like what Jeffrey has. However, downtime, you got to cover for downtime. Like right now, if my truck was to just suddenly spontaneously explode outside, I'd have enough money in the bank to last me 2 or 3 months. So, and that's not enough. I need more. M3 5A2 guy, which I'm going to call you M3 for short for now on, says, you and Jeff are so well grounded. It's a pleasure to listen to you guys. I haven't always been this way. See, that's the other thing. You got to kind of have a cool, calm head out here. You can't make business decisions, based off of emotion. Because you're going to have a bad day. You're going to have a bad week. For example, Kevin and Ollie's been in the hotel for 2 or 3 days on his truck. There's been times when I've thought about throwing in the towel. And Jeff, there was a time when I was at Landstar and Jeff kind of talked me off the ledge because he just kind of had this way of simplifying it. And that's the thing. Simplify it. What do you want to do? And that's where truck numbers come into play. You want to make more than what you're putting out. In other words, if your cost is $1 a mile, you want to make more than that. If your goal is to have a certain amount of money, then you got to find the most efficient ways to do it. Simplify the system. The problem with most business models is that they complicate it and give all these different formulas and just squeeze out every last penny, but then they forget the original concept. In other words, the customer, the process. I'm probably not making any sense, but simplify. Jeffrey Like has got a good way of simplifying things and putting them in easy terms to understand. And that's what makes him such a good teacher, is because he can make anything sound doable based off just giving you the numbers. And then if you do those numbers right, then you can account for situations where you can't run, or the truck's broke down, or you're down due to health or something like that. So I appreciate that comment, M3. Jeffrey's way more grounded than me. And had I had this mindset when I first started, I think that I would be better off right now. I think I'd be in a different place, and I think I would, I think that the mistakes of my past wouldn't have, but it's through mistakes that we learned. You got to struggle. How many owner operators do you know that struggled or failed their first 2 or 3 times, and then finally the last one sticks? Because it's a learning process. Truck driving in general, whether you're a company guy, lease guy, owner op, it's a learning process. Big Rich says, I don't care what idiots say. I've done my research and feel confident in my ability. That's the most important part, Rich. My goal eventually is to have another kind of business outside of trucking. And I've been told by other business owners, oh man, that's a money pit. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm like, that's what I heard about trucking. The problem is this other business, I don't really have a whole lot of friends in that field, so it's hard for me to educate myself. I mean, not hard, but it's going to take a little bit of work, but we got to get this down first. Dan says the naysayers don't affect me because I've heard enough success stories. Yes, Dan, especially with you being on the company side of the Big Orange, you're gonna talk to ICs and they're gonna be like, "Oh man, don't do it. I did that," and you'll find that the majority of the problems that people are having over here is based off of their attitude about it. If you don't like an area that you're running, go to a different area. If you have to change up your home time, change it up. I know it's easier said than done, but sometimes you got to have to make that sacrifice. And that's the important part. A lot of guys don't want to sacrifice. A lot of guys get this freedom and they're like, oh man, I can do whatever I want. Well, I don't want to do that. So screw that. I'm not going to do that. You can't have that attitude. For example, tomorrow I'm doing a load that I know I don't like. I don't like customers on either side. But you know what? I took my whiteboard. I was telling Jeff about this the other day. I took my whiteboard, my little whiteboard. And when you're booking freight at Schneider, what you do is you go through the load board and you pick out different scenarios. Like I had a scenario that went from Missouri to Illinois to Indiana, back to Illinois. And I wrote all those loads down, wrote the amount, wrote the miles, and I put that on one side of the whiteboard. Then I had another scenario. It's the one I'm doing. Basically, Missouri, Oklahoma, Missouri. And wrote down all the miles, and all that. This other scenario, after I estimated my fuel costs, one paid 30 cents more a mile on the average, but the other one paid $100 more on the total revenue. Okay, but it was like almost twice as many miles, and I would have had to left today and not get home, and I wouldn't have made it home. Whereas the other one was $100 less, but it was way less miles, and I don't have to leave out till tomorrow, and I'll be home by Saturday night. So to me, that was worth $100. And they're all light loads, and every single customer I knew. Just because you don't like a customer doesn't mean you can't do it, because if there's a situation that you don't like a certain shipper, well, then you can go in knowing what to expect. And knowing what to expect is how you're going to get through e-logs. That's the thing. The e-log thing is getting crazier and crazier. And you have people that are just, oh, there's going to be a driver shortage come December 19th. Okay, well, if people can tell me, hey, Steve, if you don't put money aside for maintenance and repairs, if you don't put money aside for downtime, then you're an idiot. You're not doing it right. Well, what's the difference if you don't build your business around how the hours of service works? If you can't adapt to that, then what's the difference? These guys that can't adapt to the e-logs are the ones that are telling me that I'm one breakdown from losing my business. And to me, that's kind of hypocritical. And if there is a driver shortage come December 19th, guess what? The way I've built my business, hours of service is not really going to affect me. And therefore, and that's on purpose, guys. I've been on e-logs for the last 6 years. I know how to run paper, and it was more stressful then. Now, at first, the e-logs were a huge adjustment, but you know what? I realized that if I wanted to not have that stress of the e-logs, I needed to be somewhere where I can pick and choose my freight and schedule my own loads. And that's exactly what I did. So these guys that see the hours of service and can't run legal according to that, they're the ones that are going to suffer, and they're the ones that it's either going to be sink or swim. And before, you could adapt to that. And I am not pro-mandate, but at the same time, you have to adjust. Just like, these guys, I won't drive a truck any newer than 2001 or something like that, Well, there's going to come a time when you won't be able to find parts for your old truck. How are you going to run your business? So, but you got to be willing to accept the adjustments too. Like Thor did a video about his truck, about how he knows that he's spending way more money on fuel by having that nicer truck. He knows that, but he's built his business around it, and he's built his finances around it, and he's okay with that. And that's the other thing. You got to don't live outside of your means. I have a few buddies that are working over at the Blue Star that are, buying lots of toys, man, motorcycles, and stuff like that. And it's like, meanwhile the truck's in the shop, and it's like, man, you can't just, you're running a business, and I had to get through my school too. I had to learn that. I was just like, oh, I got enough to cover truck payment. Cool, I'm good to go. I got truck payment, I got the house, I'm good. And luckily, I started to see the light when I came over here, and was able to enact a backup plan when my turbo went out. So I know I'm sorry, I'm not neglecting the comments here. Willingness to work hard and decent equipment are the two biggest things, I think. Do you agree? Says Dan Murray. Yes, I do. That's the thing. You've got to have sacrifice. The problem with the choice program or a self-dispatch program is you got almost too much freedom. So you're like, I don't feel like working today. I don't have to, because there's a load that picks up tomorrow. And it's easy to get in that groove. I did it. When I was at Landstar, I had my weeks where I'm like, I made so much money this week, I'm just gonna stay home. And you got to put in the sacrifice. So Stretch says, I had a dumbass, I was behind in line for a CAT scale back into me 2 days ago. Oh man, that sucks. Yoda's no longer on the wall. Well, it's a different month, Larry Fisher. It's it's the droids. Those aren't the droids you're looking for. $8,200 in damages. Wow. Little guy, what's up? You had enough room for all that? What are you talking about, man? Jimmy Higuera, thank you, sir. Thank you for that super chat. Says, thank you for honesty and advice. Well, I don't know about my advice, but I am honest. I'm about to show you guys my numbers. I've got my Truckin' Pro up here. And, and what's funny is there are guys that I know that do YouTube videos that will not put their numbers up because they don't want to get into that whole, oh, that's crap money, that kind of thing. Because what works for you is what works for you. If you follow the Rate Per Mile Masters page on Facebook, that discussion comes up all the time. Now, there's a difference between just running cheap freight, put yourself out of business, but then there's also a time that you got to take a certain amount. And if you're happy making $1,500 a week, then, more power to you. The expensive loads will get moved and the cheap loads will get moved. And it's just it's how much you have up here. And so a lot of these guys won't put their numbers up because they don't want to even open that can of worms. And I can fully understand. I don't put up my numbers too often. And my numbers don't really reflect a typical Snyder IC Choice person. Because I run a lot different than a lot of the Snyder Finance guys. My payments are lower. My overhead's lower. And so therefore, I tend to be a little bit pickier, and I tend to just run in the same areas unless I get some wild hair up my butt and go to Pennsylvania. Um, but a lot of that's changed scenery thing too. Um, but it's, yeah. I lost my train of thought there. Adaptation is necessary to survival in every facet of existence. Exactly. Big Rich says, my buddy went and got a truck, spent tons of thousands of customizing, truck went in the shop, and he couldn't manage. Yep, that happens a lot. A lot of the Landstar guys that I've met have that issue. They put a ton of money in chrome, and then when it comes time for that M-frame, they can't do it. Or they have an old paid-off truck, and they go to finally upgrade, but they've been running with the paid-off truck that they don't realize that you got to run differently. That's the thing. If I had a Schneider Finance truck, I'd be running a lot differently than I do. So, let's see. Kevin says you have to manage it with an even mind and patience. I used to get caught up on dispatching myself out too far and lost out on some good loads. Patience, grasshoppers. Kevin, that's exactly what happened to me when I went to PA. I was looking for stuff coming out of Ohio, and I grabbed an Ohio to Pennsylvania. Being impatient. If I had been patient later on that week, there was a bunch of beautiful loads that were going back to Missouri from Ohio, paying really good, and would have been lighter, and I wouldn't have to deal with the mountains, and had I been paying for tolls, it would have cost me money on that too. So, Daniel says, "Hey, what did you think about my live feed I did the other day?" Daniel, it was interesting. You draw a very good truck. So, that's the thing. You guys that have only a couple of hundred subscribers when you go live, don't get discouraged because, on Periscope, I'm lucky to have 4 or 5 people when I go live on Periscope. And, you feel like you're talking to yourself. Where here, there's a lot more interaction. Doing the YouTube live has been a surprisingly enjoyable thing. I didn't think that I would get into it as much as I have because I figured it'd just be like Periscope. So yeah, James, you got a wrench. So, all right, you guys ready for the skinny on the numbers here? Heath Close says, I love your vids. Thank you, sir. Unless you're talking to Kevin. Kevin says, Roger that. Time to check out and get a ride to the shop. Good feed, bro. Talk soon. All right, cool. All right, so I got my computer here. Let's see here. Let's go to reports. Here, now, I'm not all fancy. Hold on. What? There you go. I'm not all fancy with like the guys that can do the live feeds from the laptop. So let's go here. Let's go reports. All right. So I love this program. All right. So start date. Let's go with September. Let's go September 1st to September 31st. That does exist. September 30th. The truck number. Okay. All right. Now, we could do my miles per gallon. Let's check that out. So far, I'm getting 6.78. That's surprising to me. But this is the amount of money I've spent on fuel in the month of September. Okay. Average price per gallon is $2.78. So those of you who remember my little lesson in estimating your fuel costs, you can go by that number there if you do this. Okay. All right. Now you're thinking, well, Steve, you showed us videos where you're getting 8, 9 miles a gallon. I don't know why that number's that low. I really don't. I don't know if I miscalculated a number in there or if I missed, if I double added a fuel stop. But if I do it by the week, it'll show a lot higher. All right, so Let's do profit and loss. All. Ready? This is for the month of September, you guys, okay? All right. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Okay. Just in case you can't see it. Total revenue. 10,023. Ron says blame it on going to PA. No, I didn't go to PA in September, so so that'll be next. That'll be October, Ron. So total expenses is that much right there, and total profit is, you might say, well, Steve, that's not very good, and you're right. Check this out. Total actual miles 8161. That number could go up. Here's the problem. 46 cents a mile. Some company guys make more than that. Okay? That's what I take home after all these expenses are done. Okay? So my average revenue per mile is $1.23. That needs to come up. So again, this is not a typical Snyder IC thing. Average all expenses per mile, 77 cents per mile. But see, look how low that number is. Most guys that I know, they're around the dollar mark. And this is everything. This is everything. There's nothing omitted. Truck payment, insurance, everything is in here. If I've bought a $2 light, it is in here. Okay? So let's go to, we're going to close this. Okay? Now, let's start from July. Okay? So July is when I started keeping track with this program. So July 1st to today, which is the 26th. Okay? Let's see what my miles per gallon is. 6.95. Hey, Jeffrey. Okay? So far, that's how much I've spent in fuel this year. Well, not this year, since July, I'm sorry. Average fuel price is $2.59. It's a little bit lower because that was, July fuel was really cheap. So, I think, if I remember correctly. Profit and loss. Report all. Here you go. I am still at 46 cents a mile. And 70 cents a mile cost $1.23. I cannot break that $1.23. Probably because I'm running the same. So, there you go. You guys want honesty? There it is. Is that impressive to some people? No, it's not. Go through Jeff's videos. He does a video where he shows this stuff like a couple of years, 2 years back, and his numbers are a lot better and a lot higher. But he's running a program that he knew for 9 years at that point. I'm still learning. Yes, I've been here almost 2 years, and I'm still learning. And I think it was Jeff that mentioned that if you can't seem to break a certain average revenue per mile on a choose-your-own-freight kind of place, then you have to evaluate how you're running. See, this is not me change. See, if I would change up the way I ran, that would go up higher. The average rate per mile I'm getting this week is $1.60 a mile. But see, this is a monthly average here. Let's see if I can... kind of wish I had that little program where you can do the... but here's the thing. I don't have it with me. The little book I keep, I write everything down before I even enter it in this program. And that kind of gives me a trend of how much I'm making per month, whether it's improving or not. So if I sit here and say, hey, I'm not making what I want to make, then I got to change something up. What can I do different that's beyond my, how I'm doing it to improve on the situation? In other words, What can I do different? So you have to do a self evaluation. A lot of guys let their ego take control. Well, I run my way, and if it doesn't pay, then it's on them, not on me. And you got to have enough. You got to swallow the pride and sit there and like, you know what? I'm doing something wrong. Now I'm content with this number a little bit. Now, could it be higher? Yes. But that might be, I'm always self-evaluating myself. I'm always trying to make improvements. And that's the point of this whole thing. This isn't, hey, check out how much money I'm making. That's not what this is about. And I'm 100% positive that you're going to have some trolls come in here and say, well, that's not very much money. I can't believe that you think that's good. I never said this was good. There was a guy that, in one of my videos, I said something about $1 a mile somewhere. And he's like, yeah, it's guys like you that are a problem to this industry because you think $1 a mile is good. Not one time did I ever say $1 a mile was good. Ever. So that's the thing, man. People are so quick to judge. People are so quick to tell you what you're doing wrong. You're doing this wrong. You're not being an owner operator right. You're driving the wrong truck. You're working for the wrong company. By the way, you're going to fail anyway, so what's it even matter? That's the kind of negativity you're going to have to come into when you want to be an owner operator or even a truck driver in general. So that's all on me. That's not anything Schneider's doing. That's not anything that outside forces is happening. And you know what? Last year that number was a lot worse. Because of how expensive my Peterbilt was costing me. It was costing me more money in fuel. It was costing me more money on maintenance. And I was not comfortable in the truck. Therefore, if you're not together up here, you're not going to make the right decisions. If you base your business and decisions off emotion, like it's easy. It was easy for me in PA going, man, screw this low bore. I'm just deadheading home. That's not going to do you any good. Now, you might say it, you might think it for about an hour. You might put it in gear and get 10 miles down the road, but then you can think, well, you know what? That's kind of an idiotic thing to do. So I'll just, take a cheap load and suck it up and just get the hell out of there. And that's what I did. It's just like if you get lost somewhere. You can totally lose your mind and try to do a U-turn in the middle of the highway, or you can, get in the wrong parking lot and get stuck. But if you're thinking clearly, you won't make those mistakes, and you won't end up on Twisted Truckers. So Daniel says, well, Snorri, I got to go. I'm over here by Dallas, and my signal likes to cut off a lot. If your signal cuts out in Dallas, man, you got what cell phone plan are you on? Big Rich says, I'm going to buy the software today. Rich, it is the best, dude. Like I said, I should have bought this. Here's what you do. You buy a truck, sign on with the company, buy this program. That should be the order of things. I don't care if you're at a dispatched or non-dispatched company. I don't care what company you work for or you're leased onto. I don't care if you have your own authority. I don't care if you're running 80 cents a mile for, CRST or something. Have this program. Because if you have this program and you realize that whatever your company's paying you is not enough, then you'll know. If not, they'll just keep dangling that carrot in front of you and you'll never know. Oh, you get a bonus, so that'll help. Or if you get 2 referrals, that'll help. Kind of carrots that they'll dangle in front of you. But if you don't know your cost per mile, or at least have a ballpark idea, that's when you see the failure. And if you talk to 10 owner operators and ask them, hey, what's your cost per mile? And they can't, 9 out of 10 can't tell you. Well, that's why 9 out of 10 people fail at being an owner operator. There's a coincidence there, right? There's a correlation there. Peterbilt Mark talking to Jeff says, great info the other day on picking up some short hauls. Yes. That is where Jeff is the master. Jeff proves that you can make good money without having to run from Oregon to Florida. That's where you run into a lot of problems. The old school coast-to-coast truck driving, it exists, but it's very, very limited. It's very, very, if you're going from Oregon to Florida, you better be doing it for like $8,000. That's plain and simple. Or even more, Jedi, what's up? Michael Newton, how's it going? Daniel was on a walkie-talkie. How did I miss that? It hasn't cut off yet. If the strength of my paycheck depends on referrals, I'm in the wrong place. Haha, says Britch. Yes. There's a lot of these owner-operators or lease operators that get on YouTube and say, look how much money I'm making. Well, here's my settlement. It's proof. And realize that, like, a lot of the money is either training money or referral money. Here's the problem with the referral money. It has no deductions. So if you get $1,500 for a referral, you better put a bunch of it away. You better put a certain percentage amount away for taxes because there's no deduction on that money. That is money that you haven't put any expense into. So, and that's the thing. You got to watch out for some of these YouTube videos. They go, well, I work here at US Express and I make $2,000 a week. Then you find out that the guy's a trainer. Well, yeah, because you're making double income on the miles or whatever, something like that. Daniel says he's making fun of me. But Heath Close, why you said? Oh, is that a smile? Okay. So, what else did I title this video at? Numbers, home time. Oh yeah, home time. So. Now, check this out, guys. I told you. Let's get all the serious crap for a minute. Oh, hold on. Big Rich has got a thing. I'll be going to a company that gives me a DAT access and tells me to have fun. Haha. 80% till I get my own trailer, then it's 85%. Rich, kudos to you. The DAT board is a great, great resource. Heath Close. You've opened a can of worms with that question. Heath Close says, anybody know about leasing at Trans Am? Yes, I actually know a little bit about that. Do not do it. Here's why. A few years ago, a friend of mine that I worked with at a boat company as a welder, he calls me up. He goes, hey man, how's that truck driving thing going? I said, all right. At that time, I was a company guy. So he goes, well, I'm thinking about going into that because I need, because he was making like pretty good money for this boat company, and he was getting laid off, just like I did. So I said, here's what you do. Go to school, go drive for this company right here. Okay. So that's what he did. However, he goes to apply here, and at that moment, they said that we aren't taking newbies anymore. You have to have 2 years experience. Come on. And it kind of left him out in the cold. And he had his choice between Swift and Trans Am at that point, coming out of school. And he went to Trans Am. He was happy with the training. But he's got a little bit of a head on his shoulders. He's pretty smart. And I kind of gave him a few tips. Because I know guys that are leasing trucks over there that don't even know how to scale their own loads. That's problem number 1. If you're at a company where after your orientation, they want to lease you a truck, and you just got your CDL, don't do it. Even here, you have to have a year. I think it's a year. So this guy, he ended up running an average of 1,700 miles a week on the company side, mind you. But he never went home. He never could get home. And here's what they do. If you're a lease operator, you get the prime cut of the load. So what would happen is he would pick up a load. So he'd spend 10 hours, because they're a reefer company, he'd spend 10 hours at a shipper, pick up the load, and after, let's say it's a 1,000-mile load. After about 300 miles, he gets a call, say, hey, go to this truck stop. You're going to give that off to another driver, and we got you picking up something else. So now his 1,000-mile run just turned into a 3-mile run. Meanwhile, the lease operator, he gets his run and takes off with it. Or it would happen the opposite way. He would be ready to finish a run, or he would have to deliver a run that a relay already did most of the miles and made most of the money. So he did a lot of sitting to give the lease operators the priority. Now, that's the selling point. That's what they tell you at Trans Am. Hey, you know what? You know all that BS that you go through by having to relay loads and cater to the lease operators? Well, if you become a lease operator, guess what? You get to be treated like royalty. And that's a problem to me. That's an ethics problem. That is if that's how you run your business, I don't want to be any part of that. And that's why I would never lease from Trans Am. I told my friend that he probably would have been better off going to Swift. And within a year, he lost his house. His wife left him. He ended up getting custody of his kid. And he got off the road with a very foul taste in his mouth. So I do not recommend that company for anybody. Now, that being said, at Landstar, I went to orientation with a guy that paid off his Trans Am truck. So, but here's the thing. The number on the side of the door is whatever amount of bullcrap you want to deal with. Now, to be fair to Trans Am, I don't know the exact details of their leasing program, but given the way they do business, I would avoid it. And also, you're dispatched. I cannot stress that enough. Guys, don't become an owner-operator if you have a dispatcher. I'm sorry. There's just no other way to do it. And I just... that doesn't work in my business model. Now, if you're the kind of person that doesn't mind being dispatched, if you're the kind of person that wants somebody else to take control of it, then that's fine. But do not, in my opinion, having a dispatcher, Jeffrey has said it over and over, someone else is in control of your company. If you open a restaurant, you got some guy out front, I'm only opening the door 100 times today. Are you in control of that restaurant? No. You're in charge of cooking the food and making the menu and coming up with all these great themes and plans and everything. But that guy at the door, he's going to determine how much money you make. Well, it's the same thing in trucking. And don't fall for these illusion of freedoms. For example, if the company says, oh, you get a choice of 5 loads. Well, guess what? You turn down the first 4, the 5th one's going to be crap. And then they're not going to give you those choices anymore. So, there's my opinion, Heath. My honest opinion. Now, if someone that is being highly successful and happy at Trans Am wants to put out a counter video, by all means, I would like to hear both sides. But I know that from my experience of dealing with people that have been with that company, I would not work for them. I would not be a company guy. I would not be a lease guy. So, Big Rob, what's up, man? How are you doing? So, all right, here's the other thing, guys. Check this out. Told you when I got home next I was going to buy this awesome, awesome coffee. Here it is. This is the best coffee in the world. It's not that crap that you pick out of cat butts or something like that, or poop and drink it. It's not one of those things. This is Fair Trade Classic Roast organic coffee from Cafe Altura. Time for a review. This is going in my truck. I have not opened it yet. Now, I'll do a little review today. Have you guys heard of the First Watch restaurant chain? Have you guys heard of that? I have not heard of that. And there's a lot of things that have been built in town that I'm like, when did that get here? Okay. Peterbilt Mark says, have you ever tried Blue Bottle? No, I've never even heard of that. So my wife had a few doctor's appointments, and she goes, hey, I said, hey, let's go out and get something to eat for breakfast. And she's like, all right. So where do you want to go? Now, that's always been a thing in our house. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Okay, so she goes, well, there's this new place. Let's try it. Okay. I'm game. I'm in the mood for something different. So we pull up, and it's called First Watch. Now, I'm thinking this is a strange name for this restaurant. I start making fun of it. It sounds more like a security system. And my lovely, beautiful wife says, well, let's go somewhere else. You're just going to make fun of this. You're just going to be miserable. I'm like, no, we'll try it. So we go in, and right away, I'm showing up in the death metal t-shirt, hair down, and I'm like, right away I know that I do not fit in this place. It's I don't know. I want to say upper class, but it's probably just like middle class. It's not like Shoney's or Denny's. It's a breakfast and lunch cafe, right? And they have a juice bar, and they have, everything comes out in these nice, plates that are square, and everything's modern looking except for the rustic, wood. They had like a piece of plywood that someone painted with 3 tractor seats on it, as decor, At the end of the meal, we paid $30 for 2 people. It's like, it was interesting to me, and it was funny. The food was good. The food was excellent. So we're talking about coffee, right? So they had amazing coffee. It was great coffee. I loved it, right? So the manager comes up. Now, granted, this place has only been open 2 weeks, okay? He comes, oh, how you guys doing? How did you enjoy your meal? Doing the whole, I go, man, this is the best coffee. He goes, oh, we've got that for sale right over there, I'm like, all right, cool. He goes, yeah, but we're getting ready to change the blend up. What? And I asked him, I said, well, if it's not broke, why fix it? He's like, well, we're going to make it better. And I called bullcrap on that. Because here's what a lot of these chain places do. So while we're sitting there eating, I look, I'm looking at Google, and I'm like, oh, this is a chain. They're opening some in Florida. They're along the south. I've never seen them, but apparently they're a chain. Now, when you go across America, you have a different perspective of the country than most people do. Every town has an Applebee's, Ruby Tuesdays, Cheddar's, Olive Garden, all these chain places, right? There's no independent restaurants anymore. And here's what these places do. They go into an area, and they have killer food, killer service. You know why? Because they have an opening crew in there. And they have an opening crew from the franchise to come in, help you establish your business. And I know a little bit about restaurant stuff, so this is not like just me guessing, okay? So what they do is they got you now. Like, oh man, you love this place. My battery's about to die, guys, so I'm going to make this story short and then we'll call it. So after about a year, they start cutting corners. They start saving pennies here and there. They change recipes. They change coffee. And then next thing you know, management gets greedy, doesn't want to take care of his employees. And so now the service is out the window. And after a year or so, it might go out of business or they just leave. And that's what was reminded of me when I asked him why he was going to change the coffee formula. Because that's a place that I would go in there just to drink coffee. That's how good their coffee was. It was almost as good as this stuff. So we'll see. But I would not be surprised if a year from now, if that place just sucks. And, it's good. It's a good place if you want to have a business meeting in the morning. Like you don't make a multi-million-dollar deal, at Shoney's. But Greasy Spoon is a Greasy Spoon. They just disguised it very well, and their prices were very upper class. But it was good. And Jeffrey, they had a kale shake. Well, not shake, but it was a juice. So I enjoyed that. And but it was different. It was a neat experience, but it was amusing to me. And so if I ever have to have a business meeting with anybody, that's where I'll take them because that's just what you do. So, guys, it's been fun. Heathclaw says, I used to manage in the food industry too many hours. I agree with you, sir. Motor T. Good morning. Will you be keeping this video up? My phone is getting blown up with calls, so I missed out. Yeah, Motor. I might. Well, yeah, I'm gonna keep it up. I was thinking about disabling the comments, but you know what? Here's the thing. Why would I disable the comments? Because I've opened that can of worms of how much money I'm making. Okay? So here's the disclaimer. This is not a typical Snyder revenue. Okay? My cost is not typical for a Snyder owner-operator. And I know that I need to get those numbers up. What changes will I make to get those numbers up? We'll see. You guys know that I have plans. Could I make more money here? Yes. Dan Smith says results may vary. There you go. That's the bottom line. Results may vary. It's all on how there are guys that are over here that are running this program way better than me. I talked to Berger and his average rate per mile revenue is way higher than mine. So for those of you who are going to go, oh, that's crap money, Steve, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I don't care. Because it's suiting my needs, what I need to do, and I'm always trying to make improvements. If you want to give me constructive criticism, go right ahead. If you want to sit there and tell me I'm an idiot and I think that that's good, because not once did I say those were good numbers. Not one time did I say that my numbers were good. Right? Because what's good for one person is bad for another, and vice versa. I know that there's some owner operators that looked at my costs and go, holy crap, wow. And I know that there's owner operators that look at my revenue and go like, what are you doing? I know people that have like, way higher costs than me, but they're making higher revenue, so it evens itself out. Bottom line is, those are my numbers. That was for the month of September. Actually, it was from July. And results may vary, just like Dan said. So, yes, I will leave the video up. But mark my words. You're going to see thumbs down. You're going to see comments. Oh, that's a problem with Snyder. That's a problem with this. That's a problem with that. And they're not giving constructive criticism. That's the problem with the internet culture, man. We all have to sit there and tell the world your opinion on something. You know what? I hate, possums. So I'm gonna put possum hating memes out there, and I'm gonna tell Facebook, and I'm gonna put a picture of a possum with a circle crossed out, and I need to let the world know that I hate possums. That's the internet culture. And hey, Siraj. And I sacrifice a little bit of money for the freedom that I have. And the more successful in trucking you are, the more freedom you have. So I have what I need. Do you? So see you guys.